Okay, good morning. Welcome everyone. I see there are people signing in and have joined us this morning. My name is Kerrie Niemeier and I'm the Director of Marketing and Sales for Wellsbrae Tours. And I'm very honored to introduce a very special guest who is joining us all the way from Ireland. I love technology sometimes that we can connect with people from all around the world. And he is a guide for Discovery Tours with Discover Ireland Tours. And he's joining us this morning, and we're going to talk about all the wonderful things on our Ireland itinerary. So I want to say welcome, and I cannot say good morning to Liam because right now it's 5 o'clock in Ireland for him. So good evening to Liam.
Well, good morning to everybody out there. Good morning.
And Liam, would you like to just share, Liam and I were just having a nice chat, getting to know each other before we got started this morning, learned a few things about his last name and his family. Would you like to share a little bit about your background with our group?
I will indeed, yes. My name is Liam Finnegan, and I have been 28, this is my 28th year in the tourism industry, something I still love and do. I live right in the centre of Ireland, it was called, in the marketing terms with our tourism board, the hidden heartlands of Ireland, down by the River Shannon. I've been here I emigrated, as I told Kerrie earlier, when I got married, I emigrated to the next field and built my house. So yeah, I'm kind of living in exile in the next field. Well, I've done many things in life, working as a technician with Telecom Éireann and various other mad things that I've done. My first venture into tourism was with a hotel barge, all-inclusive cruising on the River Shannon, and eventually migrate into this type of thing. So hobbies include scuba diving, search and recovery, and amateur drama. Big into amateur drama. I've written a couple of plays and writing short stories and things like that. So I keep busy all the time. That's me.
Awesome. So Liam, we're very lucky to have him join us this morning. He is one of the guides for Discover Ireland, who is our partner that we work with. Wellsbrae Tours has been taking guests to Ireland since 2010, and this will be our 8th year going back. Lisa is our Wellsbrae tour director. She took our tour last year, and she will be taking the tours this year as well. So we have 2 tours that we are taking in 2024. The first one in May, and that's what we're going to talk about this morning. It has just 7 seats left. It was so popular. Our first departure was in June, actually, and it sold out in 2 days, if you can believe that. So we decided to offer a May departure as well, which is now filling up very quickly. And Liam may or may not be your specific guide on this itinerary, but he is one of the guides that works with the partner, and so we know you're going to be in very good hands with Lisa and both with Discover Ireland Tours. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We're going to walk through the itinerary of all the fabulous things you're going to see and do. And just before I do that, Lisa couldn't join us this morning. She's on a trip in Hawaii, cruising Hawaii with one of our groups. But she did send me an email. I just wanted to share this. She had a couple words she wanted to share. She said her last trip to Ireland was her first, one of the most memorable tours she's ever done, and she's absolutely thrilled to be going back in 2024. She says, I know it is called the Emerald Isle, but one thing that grabbed my attention really was how many shades of green you saw every single day. She just loved all the shades of green. She said the combination of the history and scenery is amazing, and she loved the individuality of the people in each region. So that was just nice for her to share, and she will be your Wellsbrae Tour director on this tour. And almost all of the photographs that are used in the webinar this morning in the PowerPoint were taken on Lisa's tour last year. So that's kind of fun. You might see some of your friends on tour from last year. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. let me know. Liam, can you see that?
And I can indeed, Kerrie, yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so we'll get started. So this is our May departure for Ireland. It's an 18-day tour. We have just 7 seats left, as I mentioned. We're taking small groups, so each departure to Ireland is just 25 people, and it is rated an activity level number 2. And this is a fabulous circle tour. We are circling the island, so it is going to include, of course, some of the fabulous cities and iconic sites that you just can't miss when you go to Ireland. Of course, some of them being the Blarney Castle, the Ring of Kerry, the Cliffs of Moher, Giant's Causeway. That's just to name a few. This just gives you a nice overview of our route. And then we are doing some really fabulous personal experiences as well that really get you in touch with the locals and the culture. And we're going to talk a little bit more about those experiences this morning. So from your home cities from BC, we will be flying to Calgary, and then we will be connecting on an evening flight to Dublin, and both of these flights will be on WestJet. And then our second day, we will be arriving in Dublin, so we arrive in the late morning, and the local time there is 8 hours ahead. And our driver and guide from Discover Island Tours will be meeting us at the airport, so they are going to be ready. Oh, the screen there to meet us, and then we are going to head off to the Kilkenny area, which is about 2 hours from Dublin. And along the way, we are going to stop at the Rock of Cashel. So this will be our first stop, introduction into Ireland. I know there's lots of history here. Liam, can you share a little bit about this location?
Yes, indeed, I can. The Rock of Cashel. It's not a castle, so get that first of all. Cashel, which means it's a limestone outcrop, and the town built of the same name was built around it. And it's been an important place there in Irish history since about 450 AD. You have 4 provinces in Ireland back then. They're still there, but really they don't. You don't have any provincial governments, nothing. It's a throwback to yesteryear. But the people down in the south province of Munster, they felt that if the other provinces were going to attack, this flat area in the Midlands was kind of their Achilles heel. This was high ground left and right, so this might be the left. So they built a fortification on the rock from 450 onwards, and it maintained the safety of Munster for centuries. It changed because by 998, the High King in the region was elevated to the High King of Ireland. He kind of united everybody behind him. He was the chosen one, Brian Boru. So he left and went to the Hill of Tara outside Dublin. So kind of the threat, was gone of any other invasion from the others. And the O'Briens eventually gave it over to the church in 1101. And in 1101, anything you see built there is from that period onwards. There's actually late 10th century, there's 11th century, 12th century, and 13th century cathedral. So it was the ecclesiastical capital of Ireland for centuries thereafter. So it's in ruined state now, but quite an impressive place and a heck of a lot of history to it. Really good guides.
Wow, and it looks beautiful, the surrounding area. There, so you'll have some wonderful
Midland Plain, and this thing sticks up there. The photograph shows the round tower. They were generally they were mostly freestanding, which this one would have been. But in the 13th century, 300 years later, they built the cathedral beside it and put a doorway into it. It was these are the ultimate in a multi-purpose building, the round tower. It had 6 purposes. Before Google Maps in the 1100s, it was like a beacon. You could see it for miles around, so it guided you towards the church, right? It was a lookout tower for in the event of the Vikings attacking. That's number 2. Number 3, a lookout, or a bell tower rather, to call you to prayer. Number 4, you could store your food there. Number 5, you would have your sacred vessels of gold and silver in the event of the attack by the Vikings. And number 6, the professors who ran the place, they would get in there, and in the event of the whole place being ransacked, they could restart the monastery again. There's only one door into it, and it's 12 feet off the ground. It brings a
Wow.
whole room to mind the step on the way out. So you had a rope ladder, and you climbed up, and then at least it was almost impregnable.
Wow. So that's our first stop, which is fabulous. We're going to get so much history, take that in right away. Then from there, we stay 2 nights in Kilkenny. And we do have a lovely get acquainted dinner arranged for this evening. So a nice way to just get to know each other, everyone on the tour, get to know your guide. Okay, so then our next stop, our next day, we do have a leisure morning just to get used to that time difference, of course. And then we're going to fall, after that leisure morning, we are going to do a visit to the Kilkenny Castle. So this has been an important site since William the Earl Marshal first built this stone castle in 1260. So we do a walking tour here, and then we do a walking, also we're going to go into the Kilkenny town and have a tour with the local guide. But I'm sure there's going to be some wonderful history here about the castle. Anything you'd like to share, Liam?
Yes, it is. This is the front of it, and this is what they call the rose garden. So by certainly May, June, the flowers will be all in bloom. It'll be quite picturesque. To the left of that picture, it overlooks the River Nore, so it's quite a picturesque place. It was a great place, of course, to build. It could protect the river, and the river could protect you from it.
Oh,
It was a quadrangle shape, but if you could look around at the back of it, it's only 3 sides now, because Cromwell came in the 1649, and his calling card, of course, when they wouldn't let him in, was cannon. So he blew one wall out of it to get in to attack. So it was a quadrangle. It's now just a 3-sided, but beautiful, because often these castles, they evolve with architecture. You know, somebody in the 1800s thinking, I need a French wing. So they're evolving from, okay, built in the 13th century, but really and truly they evolve over many, many centuries, and different fads, or maybe burned down and attacked and so on. The Butlers lived there for almost 800 years, the Butler family. But they ended up, uh, do you say dynasty? We say dynasty. Every dynasty has a run, like a handful of sand. Eventually, it all peters through your fingers. And they were left penniless after controlling hundreds of thousands of acres and towns and castles. They were left with this and the rain coming through the roof. And they had to hand it over to the state. So in 1960s, it became state ownership.
okay, and the state maintains the beautiful gardens, must as well. Yeah.
The castle is fully restored.
Mm-hmm.
It's glory as well, and a nice guided tour of the castle, all of that. So inside, outside, and then Pat Tynan will probably bring you down on there's a lot of history down in the city of Kilkenny. Now, city, remember, it gets that from a medieval city. To you and I, it's a small town. They wouldn't like us here saying that in Kilkenny, but it is really a town size. But there's extraordinary, beautiful architecture. There is Roth House. There's St. Canice's Cathedral. Fantastic place.
Wow.
The name Kilkenny,
Mm-hmm.
it means nothing. It's an anglicized thing. It comes from 2 words. Cill, which means a monastic settlement. It's a cell. So you know that the origins of Kilkenny, long before this castle ever came on to us, in the 5th, 6th century, was a monastic settlement. And Canis is a holy man who started up a monastic settlement. And that's where Kilkenny comes from.
Oh, wow. There's so much history. We're only on day 3. I love it. Liam, I can hear you quite well, but we did have one guest ask, is there any way to turn up your volume a little bit? You can, I don't know. we'll keep going. Okay,
Closer. I'll come in a bit closer to the whole thing.
that sounds a bit better already. Yeah,
Is that okay?
perfect. That's perfect. Thank you. So now our next day, day 4. So we are near Cork today, and we are going to enjoy a tour and whiskey tasting at Old Jameson Distillery. Jameson, I've tried Jameson, very famous whiskey, of course. So I know this is going to be a really fun tasting. This is our group last year. You can see they're doing their bottoms up there. Looks like they're all enjoying it. Are you a huge whiskey fan, Liam? You must be.
I'm a big whiskey fan, Irish whiskey. I haven't developed a taste for Scottish, the smoky, peaty flavour, more like that. But Irish whiskey, Jameson and Redbreast whiskey is a beautiful whiskey, very smooth. We triple distill our whiskey. I tell the Scots, the Scots by nature are said to be a bit tight-fisted. I do give them a hard time over there. I tell them they would be able to peel an orange in their pocket and take it out segment by segment rather than share it. But we triple distill, they single distill their whiskey, so it's a smoother. And we dry our grain over a kiln, instead of over peat. So we don't have that cross connection with peat and smoke. So that's the major difference between Irish whiskey and Scottish whiskey. And the Gaelic name, 2 words, Ishka Baha.
Ishka Baha. Oof. I feel like you might be able to say that easier after you've had a couple whiskeys.
Yes, you would, yeah, indeed, yeah. It means, translated, it means the water of life.
The water of life. Okay. And do you drink it just on the rocks or just
Yes,
straight
I drink
up?
it on the rocks, and I occasionally put a soda into it, something like that, but it's best tried neat.
Nice, neat, yep. That's obvious. That's what they're doing here in the photograph, just try neat.
Some people put water in it, but I feel that Jameson has put enough of water in it when they're making it, so why dilute it further,
Definitely warms you up from the inside out.
It sure does. It absolutely does.
Okay, we'll keep going. Also this is our day 4. In the afternoon, we're going to visit the Blarney Castle. Of course, this is one of the most iconic places in Ireland. You get to climb up to the castle and kiss the Blarney stone if you do wish. And the legend is once you've kissed the stone, you will receive the gift of gab. So these are our smiling faces from our tour last year who all climbed up, and we have one guest in action kissing the stone. I should follow up with these guests and see if they received the gift of gab. Have you kissed the stone, Liam?
I have indeed, yes, many years ago. And there's old wives' tales about things, oh, you don't do this. Listen, nobody has fallen to their death while trying to kiss the Blarney Stone.
Good.
Nobody has died of infectious diseases after kissing the Blarney Stone. And for vegetarians among you, it doesn't taste like chicken. Okay?
That's perfect.
To be aware, there's about 100 steps up of a climb on a circular stair. So, everybody has to gauge their own mobility issues and all of that, But you can always try it. And if you halfway up, if you decide that's not for you, you can come down the other side. It's fine.
And is it always the same spot on the stone? It looks that's the lucky spot, give or take. Okay.
Give or take, it is. But even if you had issues about climbing, I would still suggest you go down to the castle because the gardens are magnificent.
Okay.
Really beautiful place for photography and all of that. So if you're into gardens, flowers, it's just an amazing place.
Excellent.
It was built in 1446 by the McCarthys. They were a powerful people, a powerful clan of Celts. By the way, Blarney was given to the English language by Queen Elizabeth I.
Oh.
These McCarthy's been a thorn in the side of the English. Elizabeth I sent orders to her general in Cork. Now, he'd have been in Kinsale about a day's horse ride away at least to attack the McCarthy's, get rid of them, you know. It seems he had got used to the easy living, didn't want to rock the boat. So every time he got uh, orders from his queen, he sent a long-winded reply as to why now was not the exact time to attack the McCarthy's. It is said that while reading one of these long-winded replies, she made the outburst that this guy is talking a load of blarney. You're talking nonsense.
Nonsense, yep.
So if anybody tells you you're talking blarney, maybe you want to reassess the situation, unless you're a tour guide.
Right, okay. Oh, you have so much knowledge. I love it. Okay, next, so now and this is the afternoon, we are going to head out and drive over the Cork and Kerrie Mountains. The scenery just looks absolutely spectacular. We're going to pass by some ruins, some more castles. We'll be making some stops along the way. One of them is the Macroom Castle, and this was once the home of Sir William Penn, whose son founded Pennsylvania. So I know there's lots of history here. Liam, take it away.
Yes, William Penn Sr. would have been granted huge tracts of land by the English royal family at the time, and tens of thousands of acres in the Macroom area, and he controlled everything. And that wasn't good for the Irish, you know. Today you went to bed, you know, with a little holding and feeding your family, feeding your animals. Tomorrow you woke up as a landlord or as a tenant of Penn, and you didn't even know who he was, you know. And now you have to pay him money to live in your own house, that kind of thing, you know. But anyway, he built a castle there. His son, of course, lived for a time there and went off, of course, to America and founded Pennsylvania, as we know. If you look at the photograph, it says Ballyvorney. See that town? The villages of Ballymakeary and Ballyvorney. Ballyvorney is quite a lovely name. Bally is homestead, town or homestead. It comes from a Gaelic word called Baile, B-A-I-L-E, Baile. But Ballyvorney, translated, is the homestead of my darling. Literally translated. I don't know who the darling was, but anyway.
Yeah, so we'll be going through these villages and making some stops. So thank you for adding that.
Okay. Then you're going on to Killarney, isn't it, after that?
Let's see what's next. So next is day 5 and the Ring of Kerrie. So this is one of the most amazing drives in Ireland. Obviously, lots of magical, mystical places to visit and sites along the way. You can see from the photograph all the different viewpoints where you can stop along the way. And then, yes, we'll be heading into Killarney National Park.
Yes, it definitely is. It's a magnificent drive. It's called the Ring of Kerrie. And of course, County Kerry has about 4 large peninsulas jutting out into the Atlantic. The first one, my index finger, is the Dingle Peninsula, but you'll be traveling on the long finger one. That is the Iveragh Peninsula, known as the Ring of Kerrie. And it's quite a journey, and it's byways and highways. Great place for the camera. Photo opportunities today should be great. Little towns, villages, quaint places for photo opportunities, for lunch, all of that. It's one of the highlights of a lot of people's tours.
It's just
Killarney
gorgeous.
National Parks is 25,000 acres of a national parks, and it includes a large house as part of it, and extensive gardens called Muckross House and Gardens. Quite a lovely place to visit as well. So all of these villages are spectacular to visit. Gaily coloured cottages, painted cottages, all of that, you know. Muckross House was built. Well, the family who built that house, they thought all their birthdays were coming at once, because they were told that 18 months out, Queen Elizabeth I was coming to visit. This could mean, you know, maybe a title or more land or whatever, you know. And they went a bit OTT with the preparations, to such a point that they actually went broke. She came for 2 nights, didn't even pay the B&B and left. So they got into financial difficulties, and it was actually eventually so an interesting house. Do you ever remember an American TV series called Dynasty or Dynasty?
Yes.
Yeah, some of us called it dysentery, but that's another story, you know. But you know, the house that was used for that TV series, that's Filoli House. It's about 75 miles south of San Francisco. That's a replica of Muckross House, only 5 times bigger.
Oh, I didn't
But,
know that.
yeah, the person who built that replica, he bought the original house for his daughter who was getting married in Ireland as a residence. So he built Filoli over there as a replica. Yeah.
Oh, that's fascinating. Now, in this photo, like you see all these farms, what is the main crop that people would be growing?
On the ring of Kerry, because it's
Mm-hmm.
mountainous, there is some flat land, but it's generally mountainous and marginal land, and sheep is the order of the day to a great extent. Sheep would be
Okay. So we're going to
farming.
see probably lots of sheep as
Yes.
we're going through these areas.
And venture maybe to have lamb on the menu, you know. Um, if you like to eat meat, well, lamb in County Kerry, these lambs are up in the mountains and they're eating fantastic herbs that man can't get at. And so they are what they eat, and they've a great flavor. So I would highly recommend a lamb lunch for it.
Excellent. My husband loves lamb, but I'm sure it tastes much better there than what we have here. Okay. So now, still the same day, after we do all this lovely driving and historical stops, we're going to be going to the hotel. But to get to our hotel, we have a really exciting mode of transportation. So we're going to return to our hotel riding on horse-drawn carts. So these are locally known as jaunting carts in Ireland, and these are our groups last year. You can see the beautiful scenery. Just a lovely way to get around. I love horses. I grew up riding horses, so I know this would be a huge highlight for me. And then obviously your luggage will meet you at the hotel, but you'll have a nice ride on these jaunting carts.
They're good guy. The guys who drive these are called Jarvies, and they're all local guys, and they have good wit and good stories to tell. So you'll certainly enjoy it. You'll all come back smelling like horses, but if you all go, you'll all smell the same, so nobody will be any the wiser, you know. But it's a fun trip.
I love it. Okay, then moving on. So tonight we have a really fun dinner planned. This is at Kate Kearney's cottage, and it's a lovely dinner along with the traditional entertainment of this region, with musicians playing the guitar and the fiddle and the mandola. I don't know what the Irish bouziki is.
What?
It says Irish bouziki. Is that some kind of instrument?
Oh, well, let's see now. Our thing. Oh yeah, the Irish. Yeah, it's almost like a little between a guitar and a banjo.
Okay, okay.
Then
So this is,
the banjo, bowron. You see the instrument there? Can you see my there?
yep,
Uh,
Baron. Yep.
oh, no, the bowron. That's and uilleann pipes. Uilleann. Use your elbow. We don't do the Scottish pipes, the bagpipes. You know, we think that they're too loud to be played indoors, all that. So we use the uilleann pipes, and we don't blow into them. We have a bellows under our elbow. So that's how it's, and it's much softer, much more adaptable to fantastic sounds. The uilleann pipes.
Oh.
Kate Kearney was a lady in the 1700s. She set up camp at a gap in the mountains. And people coming through, of course, the shortest possible route, either walking or on horseback or donkey or cart, they would come through. Now, she was a lady who had an illegal pub. In the Gaelic language, it's called a she-bean. She-bean. And she sold illicit brew we call poaching. Do you call it moonshine like in the States? Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
moonshine.
it's pretty. I mean, it's about 98% proof. You could you can drink it, drive a car, fire a rocket, even probably strip paint. It's pretty potent stuff. So people will be coming now. She got the name that she was a witch, casting spells on people. I'd say there wasn't a word of truth in it. What was happening was the lads were coming through the pass, in they'd go, and they'd liquidate their assets, so to speak. The few pound they had, they spent it on butchering, and go home with a sob story to the wife saying, oh, you couldn't believe it. I was going through the pass and Kate Kearney cast a spell on me. It took all my money. Yeah, really. So that's where you're going to be. Kate Kearney's cottage. Lovely, lovely place at the foothills of the mountains.
Yeah, and I love the Irish dancing. I have a girlfriend here that lives in Kelowna, and she runs the Irish School of Dance, and they travel all around the world dancing, and I've gone to watch them, and so I know I would love this night with the music and the food and the dancing. A lot of fun.
Excellent.
Okay, next. Oh. So now we're on to day 6, and after we're going to take a ferry on this day to head over, and the highlight will be the Cliffs of Moher. Absolutely love this picture. It's probably one of the most photographed sites in Ireland. I know when you Google Ireland, this often comes up, but it's an 8-kilometer stretch of cliffs that plunge 212 meters into the Atlantic Ocean. And Liam can share more. This is just a photograph of our clients last year at the stunning viewpoints, but just absolutely spectacular.
Yes.
And you just don't want to fall over. It's way up there.
Brings a whole new meaning again to mind the step going out. Yeah.
Yes.
Nasty, dangerous. The ferry ride, by the way, will be about a half hour across to Shannon Estuary. That's all it
Okay.
is. If people are worried about that, it's no big deal. It's quite a sheltered body of water. It's okay. The cliffs are rather beautiful. Over 1 million visitors per year go there. So it's
Wow.
quite, now there are, I mean, I would advise people to go up and explore it. To the right of where these couple are standing, there is O'Brien's Tower, quite a lovely tower up there that Cornelius O'Brien built in the early 1800s. But there is also a really good visitor area, centre. And it included, you will find, you get into the exhibition area, lots of screens and information on the bird life, the plant life, the fish life, all of that. But there's also one room I would advise everybody to go to. It's almost like a virtual screen. You're almost, standing with the animals. So if you join at the start, you're soaring above the cliffs with the birds. And as they dive bomb down into the water, you'll be there. Fantastic sea life, seals, whales, dolphins. You'll probably see our most colorful fish, the cuckoo wrasse, kind of a splash of the rainbow on the side. So fantastic. And again, particularly anybody who might have mobility issues, you will see it all there in the center. It's really, really cool. The rock you're standing on and where these people are standing against, it's all Liscannor stone. And you can quarry it almost like slate, but if you told them down there it was slate, they'd be offended. It's actually it's mud, originally mud, and with the compaction of the earth and the heat from the center of the earth, it solidified into stone like that. There are kind of squiggly marks on it. You think it was kind of held safely, non-slip. No, the squiggly marks are fossilized sea worm from millions of years ago. Quite a beautiful place to go.
Yeah, thank you for adding about the center and that experience. I didn't personally know that was there, so that sounds amazing too. Sort of, it's like a 3D experience almost, it sounds like.
Yes.
Yeah, excellent. And is that free in the center? It just
Yes, it's all included in your trip, in your visit.
Perfect. Okay. Okay, I'll just move this down. So also on this day, we are doing a stop at the Pulnabrone Domain. probably saying that incorrectly. This is a tomb with this. Yeah, go ahead, Liam.
Rowan Dolman, yeah, Dolman. I actually built one in my own front yard here a few years ago. The neighbors thought I had lost the plot. And the city of Dolman, you know. They're about 3,500 BC. So they're kind of in around they're between 4,000 and 5,500 years old. They're burial sites.
So yes, are there people buried? Obviously,
yes.
were buried here originally, yeah.
Actually, this one, if you've seen it when it was completed thousands of years ago, all of the people were buried either in humation or cremated form. And then they build smaller stones around it, and they eventually make it into a mound with soil. And over the centuries, people have robbed the soil because it's not that plentiful up there, and the stones, and it's left with these kind of 3 legs holding it up.
Okay.
Now they were afraid this might fall over, and so they decided to put concrete around the bottom of it, but they needed archaeologists to move in first. A friend of mine, Vinnie Butler, done the survey there. And it's a survey on the number of individuals buried there. And with all the science available to them, they found there was about 32 people in humation form buried in that over maybe hundreds of years. And it's closed up then. You or I wouldn't get into it. It would be dead leaders and kings. But the Burren is 200 square miles, an extraordinary place. We're talking earlier, Kerrie, about it. If you go up to the highest mountains, it's all limestone. Up to the highest hills and mountains, bring a hammer with you, crack open the stones, and you'll find fossilized sea creatures. So about 380 million years ago, it lay under warm seawater. And movements of the earth has pushed it up out of the sea and created the landscape that you will see.
That's fascinating. It almost, yeah, it looks like it will almost, you could push it over, but it's very, very strong. It's been standing all of those years. Then from here, we follow the south coast of the Galloway Bay, and we stayed 2 nights in Galloway. This looks like an absolutely beautiful village on the south coast.
The picture there is actually just on the edge of the city, and where the green grass is Claddagh village. Have you ever heard of the Claddagh ring? The Claddagh ring, it is a heart held in 2 hands with a crown on top. It is the old marriage ring of the Western Seaboard. You know, when we didn't have money to buy rings for every occasion, it was passed down from grandmother to granddaughter. And the hands for friendship, the hands for love, the hands for friendship, and the crown for fidelity. So it is a heart clasped in 2 hands with a crown on top. It's incorporated into many, many forms of jewelry today. But Galway is a fun city, and your hotel, the park, is a stone's throw from everything. 3 to 4 minutes walk, you're in the thick of the pedestrianized area where you'll have buskers playing music all hours, evening and night, and lots of places to enjoy.
Oh, and so that symbol they sell, I love that, the heart. That's beautiful. So you could probably buy a necklace with that on it.
You can buy rings, necklaces,
yeah.
you know, earrings, jewelry of any types that has been incorporated into many things. But the original is the ring. And there's etiquette for wearing it. When you're looking for that somebody special, you wear the ring with the heart facing outwards. And when you find that person, then you should turn around that the heart is facing your own heart.
Okay, that's a good tip for any of our guests are looking for a husband or wife while they're on tour. Keep that in mind.
You know, the old saying in Ireland is, there's no point being happy all your life. Go and get married.
Oh, that's so funny. I'm going to tell that to my husband when I get home. Okay. Okay, next day, another fabulous day. I just love this photograph. Lisa took this picture, our tour director, and you can just see here all these different shades of green. Just magnificent. So this is Kylemore Abbey. It is where the Benedictine nuns have run a school for girls since 1920. And we will have time to wander through the gardens, through the Abbey itself, and then some of the shops that are there as well. Anything you'd like to share about this wonderful property? It's just gorgeous.
Well, this was a house at one time. The English used to come to Ireland for the Victorians in particular, to take in the air, polluted cities and towns and whatnot. So you come to the west of Ireland to take in the air, that's it. And this guy used to come here to fish, and he fell madly in love with the place. His name was Mitchell Henry in the 1840s. He was from a very rich family in England, textile family, and he decided, getting married, he'd build a beautiful home out here for his new bride. Any fool could build with limestone, but he didn't want to do that. He wanted to show you money. So he built it with granite, and he imported it from England. And to the left, by 12 miles, the town of Clifton, the ship would come in there, and with the donkeys and carts, they brought these big rocks up to build this. It is said that he was a good landlord and was very kind to his tenants. To the left by about a kilometre, he has a beautiful Victorian walled garden that's been fully restored. And to the right, there's actually a church in miniature. It's a cathedral in miniature, a Gothic church, where they're actually both buried eventually. So a fairy tale story really, but within a couple of years, she passed away, and the shine fell off the whole thing anyway. And it changed hands a number of times, including Lord Ardilaun owned it. He was a grandson of Arthur Guinness and a few people. But jump forward to the early 1900s, World War I in Europe is raging. The Benedictine nuns who left Ireland to go to Europe to set up convents and schools, they literally had to flee with the clothes they stood in back to Ireland as the Germans approached. So they had to flee. So they came back, they stayed in a number of places. We're not quite sure who, but some kind benefactor bought this place for the nuns to set up a convent, and they started, as you said earlier, Kerrie, school, second level school, you might call it high school, for young girls. And it flourished for decades and decades, particularly European children, girls coming over, where their parents wanted them, A, to be educated through English, and B, by the nuns. And you'll find Luxembourg and, Switzerland, Andorra, France, places like that. That's where it all came about, But it's a beacon for tourism and for jobs out there. There is nothing around the place, only mountains and scenery. So it is really has been a godsend for jobs. But sadly, in the early 2000s, the school closed. They did try taking in day boarders locally, but eventually it closed. And there was a worry about it because all of the jobs and all that. The visitor element of it continued. But lo and behold, it now has a great new lease of life. If you look to the right of the picture, there's a kind of a glass building on top of the original building there to the right. They're new dormitories. There's a gentleman who gives a lot of money to the Catholic University in America. I'll give him a moment. But he spends millions with them every year. He decided that some of the money, though, should maybe be brought back to Ireland. So now some of the young people who go to that college in America do some semesters here instead. So it has breathed new life into the whole thing. And it's an amazing story. It went, from a house to a convent, then fell on hard times, and now it's back in business again. But there are 3 visits in one. So go to the house, you'll see some of the Benedictine nuns, the rooms, and then for the Mitchell Henry. To the right, the Gothic church, fantastic architecture. To the left of that picture is a kilometre away, is the gardens fully restored, and there is a shuttle bus to take you up and down. By the
Beautiful.
way,
That's,
sorry, not Notre Dame. Notre Dame is the American college that this guy put a lot of money
yes,
into. Well,
yes.
now they're doing some of the semesters here instead.
Well, very sad his wife passed away so soon and didn't get to enjoy this property for so long. It is gorgeous. I have a friend here locally in British Columbia who sent his daughter to a girls finishing school in Switzerland last year. So that tradition still exists. It would have been lovely to go to school here for a few years. My parents didn't send me anywhere.
But you will enjoy Connemara, and as you come back, this picture pops up Glengowla Mines. A guy called Keith and his family run this place. They have a little, there is an old mines there, a lead mines has been discontinued since the 1800s. And people had a tough time trying to dig out with basic implements, trying to extract lead. But Keith has his sheepdogs, and he does a fantastic display of how you control sheep with your dogs. Border collies, they're born and raised to do this. They just love doing it. Now, if you have your sheep on the mountains for months at a time, with thousands of others belonging to other people, all common grazing area, how do you get them down in the autumn? Well, you could send 10 men out, up, and 2 days later, and a couple of heart attacks later, you might get them down. Where one man with 2 dogs can go up for a day and get everything done. You see, they're all painted. That's
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
and it depends on the football team they support. Not really, not really. Not really. So if you have thousands of sheep up there in the mountains, like a biblical sense, I know mine, my own know me. So I need to mark them. So on the right hand side, the guy is sheared. You see that he has the wool on him, and he'll have marks. And when you take off his fleece in the early spring, you will have to recolor them. And if you're sharing the land up in the mountains with me, you using red, I use green, the other neighbor will use blue, and so on. It's such a simple system for identification. They do have ear tags, as you can see, jewelry. Well, they can get lost, but the number or the paint will stay on. It doesn't damage the fleece, it'll be fine. When the fleece is washed, the paint will come out.
And that color stays on the sheep the whole time until they shear them.
It does.
Wow, interesting.
And
I know this.
you
Yeah,
notice
this.
they have forms.
Yep.
If you have good land, say in the Midlands where I live, flat good land, it's called intensive farming. So you'll have sheep per acre, maybe 1.8 sheep per acre of land. Where in the mountains, and by the way, you have a big sheep that gives you a lot of meat, and they'll thrive on that kind of land. In the mountains, you have poorer land, and so you have extensive farming, which means acres per sheep per animal. So you need about 2.5 acres per sheep up there in the mountains. It's meager, and they usually don't have multiple births. They have one, and they're small little guys. They're horns. But while they don't have the big carcass to sell, the flavor of the meat you'll get premium on it. So that's why you've got the guys. This guy on the left with the wool, he's known as a Connemara black-faced sheep. And the next guy to the right again, with the mixture of black and white, he's known as a Scotch-faced sheep, different breeds of sheep. But they're horses for courses, they're agile, they can stay out all year, hardy animals.
And so do they shear them once a year?
Only once a year. Now,
once a year.
In the Midlands where I live, you'll be doing it in late April. It'll probably be the first week of June before you do it out in the mountains, because it gets cold at night. And it'd be like you walking around with a fur coat on you. And tomorrow we put you out with your underwear.
Yeah.
So you have to watch the weather for the next few days. You're not going to get frost and get pneumonia and all these things.
I know this was a highlight on the tour. A few of our guests came back. They loved this experience. So that's You will learn so much. Now, our next day, we'll keep moving on. So after driving along Loch Ness, we visit the lovely Belleek Fine China Factory. So of course they're making porcelain and pottery here. It's been renowned since the 1860s. And the good news is if you do want to purchase any items, they have a beautiful gift shop and they will ship the items home for you. So you don't have to be carrying around them on the tour and worry about them breaking. So you'll have a lovely tour of this factory and learn how it's made and then have a chance to purchase and shop in the gift shop. Do you have any pieces of this china?
We have a teapot and various items around the house, yeah, that I bought up in the week. I mean, it's going since the 1840s. After the famine, there was a want and devastation in Ireland, and the landlord decided to have a geological survey, and they found that it was perfect the clay for making pottery, and that's how it started. Now, it's extraordinary designs. You would just be in awe looking at them, how they can do this thing. It's amazing. And George and Penrose was the guy who started it off. Fantastic visit. If you want to take a note on this, Kerrie, before you get to Belleek, so you're leaving Galway, you will need to do, I think I see something about lunch in Sligo. I would do a morning coffee stop, comfort stop, in Yates Country Inn.
Yates Country Inn. Okay, I'm writing it down. Yeah.
Y-A-T-S, as in William Butler Yeats, the poet. Okay. And then have a coffee with bathrooms. And then before Sligo town, add in a little visit free of charge, a place oozing of history, Tubernault.
Yep.
N-A-U-L-T.
N-E-U-N-T. Got it. Okay.
Now, this is what they call a mass rock under a cliff, and there's beautiful babbling stream coming out of the mountains and all that. Now, before Christianity, this was a place of pagan worship. Okay, so it goes back pre-Christian times. When Christianity come, they started to, they took over these sites and they took them as their own, and they started to pray to a god then, right, as we know it today. And we come along to 1695, a horrendous time in Ireland, where penal laws are introduced in Ireland. You could not own property in your own country. It was illegal for Irish people to own property. You could not own a house either. Okay? You could not speak your language, your own Gaelic language. You could not send your child to school or go to church, Catholic church. Horrendous laws. So of course, typical of the Irish, you tell them not to do something, that's when they'll really start doing it, So the priest would have been on the run because there was a price on his head. If caught, and some of them were, there was no trial. He was brought to the nearest town and publicly hanged that day. Right? So they lived in caves and in the mountain areas far from the madding crowd. They would send word to a trusted friend to say that, by the way, never on a Sunday, because they'd expect that. Maybe on a Saturday morning at dawn, we would be at Tubernault under the cliff, and the priest would come out of hiding. And these people, maybe 2 o'clock in the morning, they would walk across fields in their bare feet, hundreds of them, and hide under the cliff until the priest arrived. He would be in cities because, of course, he couldn't be wearing clerical garb. And he carried his bits and bobs with him. And there's a big boulder, and this was the altar. So it's known as a mass rock area. And he would hopefully celebrate mass for the Irish and disappear before the English would know or spies would inform on him, and he'd be caught and publicly hanged. So it has amazing history. I don't flog any religion, but this is a place where you can talk about the pagan rituals that was carried out there, but also when Christianity come and the penal laws. There are many places where you can go to see a mass rock. but this is the most accessible of all. And you get a feel for the whole thing. They're under the cliff that could hide and wait for the priest to come. 1695 to 1832. So it's a free visit, amazing place. And then into Sligo for your lunch.
That's perfect. Yes, I've written that down. So the morning coffee stop at Yates and then off to Tabernaut Mass. Okay, excellent. Love that tidbit. Thank you for sharing that. I'll let Lisa know so she can let the guide know just in case it's not you. Okay, and then we continue along the North Mayo Coast, and this is our accommodation for 2 nights. This beautiful castle that you see, the Loch SD Castle. And I know Liam can tell us lots about this beautiful property, but we have 2 nights staying in this wonderful hotel.
This is my home from home. I spend quite a lot of tours here. It's just an amazing place. And we're in Donegal now, and I would say the food and the staff alone will sell this place. Apart from the fantastic bedrooms and all the facilities is great. What I would say for those going on any of the tours, when you've signed up, when you paid, when you know you're going, I would look at the website, and if you wanted to do anything in the spa, you need maybe a month out to book it, because you won't get it on demand when you go there. It'll be busy, you know. So there's a fantastic spa there if people want to do something, you know. It's just a note to do it in advance rather than trying to do it when you're coming to Ireland or on the tour. You may not get availability.
Yeah, and maybe closer to the date we could know the timing. So if there are guests that are interested, let your local office know, and then we can look, just so we can try to time it with your arrival and departure time and squeeze that in. If that is something that interests you, definitely let us know and we'll look into it further. I love a good spa, so I appreciate that tip.
The O'Donnells were the people who would have ruled that area. The O'Neills and the O'Donnells ruled half of Ireland, the northern half of the whole island at one time. And this would have been an O'Donnell stronghold. In Donegal town, a few miles in the road, they had another castle there. And they had an old one here as well. But of course, when you come to 1601, a turning point in Irish history, and our leaders are all exiled to Europe, the O'Donnells were forced out. And a guy called Basil Brooke was given this whole area for services to the crown. And he closed down to the right-hand side of that picture by about 300 meters. There is the old castle of the O'Donnells. And he built this magnificent thing here. In town, where the O'Donnell Castle stands, this was 15th century. He built in the 17th century then an extension to it. You can see the contrast in the architecture as it was. But this was and even the current owner, it's quite nice to see. Pat Doherty owns this place. He has a massive property portfolio around the world. He left County Donegal when he was 14 years of age to work on building sites in England. And it's a rags to riches. He is worth in the billion or plus now, you know. And he's a magnificent portfolio of properties around the world. A friend of mine actually manages it all for him. And even my friend, poor thing, has to go to Antigua every month. Difficult, I know.
But yeah, that sounds like a good job.
Pat thought, wouldn't this be lovely? I'll own this as well. So he bought that in recent times. It's lovely to think that a man who left with nothing can come back and do that. But the Donegal people are fantastic at that hotel.
Awesome. And then we're going to go somewhere very quaint. After spending our time here, we drive our coach down into Slieve. I think this is pronounced Slieve League Cliffs. So these are the highest sea cliffs in Europe at 600 meters. And then we're going to go into Glencumstil Folk Village. It's a lovely little village with thatched roof. It is a replica of rural the rural village life. I think it sort of takes you back, and you're going to go back in time and sort of see how they lived their lives all these years ago. Sort of like a living museum.
The drive out there is fantastic. It really is rural, beautiful, scenic area. On the left, you'll have the sea, and on the right, you'll have the mountains. Really lovely area. And Sleeve League is really impressive. And there'll be small shuttle buses that bring you up. Your large coach won't get up, so you go to the visitor centre, you're brought up by shuttle bus and back down. And then you'll come to this area here. First of all, Glen Columkill. Glen is a glen. Columkill is one of our main saints. He, for example, went off, he would have been around the time of St. Brendan and, you know, after St. Patrick and all that. And he would have went off and actually Christianized the Scots after leaving, after setting up a number of monasteries in Ireland, including a place called Kells in County Meath. So that's where it gets the name from his homestead, the Glen of where Columkill comes from. And they have a thatched cottage in the village there. Notice the roofs. It's not just thatch. You can see the timber, the willow that's woven in on top of it. That is because of massive Atlantic storms would rip the thatch off. So you've usually that, and if you could zoom in on them totally, they probably have fishing nets on top of them as well, simply because the storms would come and rip them off. But it's an extremely beautiful scenic drive, which you will love.
Very pretty, very pretty. Thank you for explaining the shuttle bus up to the cliffs. I wasn't sure how that works. So they park at the visitor center, and then they'll shuttle them up to the cliffs for the lookouts. Okay, now we're on to day 10, and our morning is spent touring the Donegal area. We do have a wonderful lunch arranged this day in a traditional pub, and then there'll be time for shopping at one of the famous centers where you can buy some of the really fine Irish fashions for these cooler climates. And there must be a story with this photograph. I didn't have a chance to ask Lisa. She's our tour director. She's sort of the lady right in the middle, below the statue with his hand in the air, and then our customers are all doing their fist in the air as well. Is there a meaning behind that, or they're just having some fun in this photograph?
No, it's just their pose, but the guy is Owen Rue O'Donnell. Owen is the name, and Rua means he was red-haired. O'Donnell. He would have been one of the local kings there at one time. But as I said earlier, 1609 they were all exiled into Europe, and that's at Donegal Bay where they would literally have exile from. Atlantic Ocean just
Fun spot for a group photo. Yeah. Okay.
Windy in Donegal, now remember that, but you have to, you know, be prepared for all that, you know. Somebody once said that it was so windy in Donegal one day that a hen laid the same egg twice. So that's windy.
So also on our same day, we are going to continue on and stay 2 nights at the Loch Earn Resort. Wow, look at this property. It's located on 600 acres, right beside the lake. Just looks absolutely beautiful. So we do spend 2 days, 2 nights here. So you have lots of time to tour around this gorgeous property. Lots of different facilities on site. It's just absolutely majestic.
It certainly is. This is Lower Loch Earn, E-R-N-E, and it really is a fantastic, tranquil place. There's a golf course if anybody wants to try the golf as well. The walks on it here, it's really upmarket. You can be pampered there as well with the spa, which is quite beautiful. One of the big meetings happened there was the G8. The G8 meeting It was actually before they'd done away with Russia out of the G8. It became the G7. They had a meeting there. Tony Blair was the guy who organized it there. So it was a massive security event, to try and get all the leaders, the G8 leaders here. And as you know, your income has improved greatly since.
Okay. And then our next day, our hotel buggies are going to take us right to the dock to board the Lady of the Lake. And we're going to do a cruise along the lake, and we'll go into the Enniskillen town. There's free time for lunch here. This is a fun photograph. On the right is one of our guests, Roger, and he was actually able to drive the boat. He must have a background in boat driving, but he was one of the captains on board. He got a certificate for driving that boat. So it was a really fun experience. And then just a couple guests with the boat driver on the left. But I think this is a beautiful day. Hopefully the weather is wonderful. There is an indoor space on the boat as well. But you'll see lots of the classic houses and just from that era from 1790 onward. I'm sure, I would assume you've done this cruise.
I have indeed, yeah. I love it, yeah. It's lovely, yeah. And into Enniskillen town, and then afterwards you're going to Castlecool, which is only about a mile and a half out of town. It's a beautiful Palladian mansion from the 1790s. It really is an impressive structure. It's owned by the National Trust. Now, National Trust are an organisation in Britain and Northern Ireland, where all of these old places have fallen on hard times. The upkeep of these estates, often you had death duties and taxes, which cost a lot of money as well. So the whole thing fell apart over years, and the families had to hand them over to the National Trust. They literally keep them going. But this is a fantastic place at Castlecool. There are great guides there as well, which will guide us through it. It's in impeccable condition. It really is beautiful. But you'll certainly enjoy that day. The Lady of the Lake, beautiful boat to cruise on, and then it might even stop at a little island which has a monastic settlement as well there as well. So a great day, second day here.
Excellent. Then on to day 12, we're going to cross the border into Northern Ireland now, and then we'll soon make our way into Londonderry. The photograph you see it's a walled city, the only completely walled city in the United Kingdom. And there's a local guide that's going to take us on a walking tour of the walls of Derry. I'm sure Liam can fill us in a bit more about the history here. And then from here, we'll continue on into Belfast, where we'll stay for 3 nights. But yeah, take it away, Liam, for this.
Right. Londonderry is the only, we Indigenous people would say, it's the only word in the English language with the first 6 letters silent. We call it Derry. And the divided society in Northern Ireland, if you point at that on a map and say, what's the name of that place? To a man, woman, and child, you will be able to tell their background. One will say Derry, they'll be Indigenous Irish people, and the other will say Londonderry, who came in from 1600s onwards. It's incredible. You would define them that way, But while a lot of people are trying to shake off that tag, and they say Londonderry, we call it legendary now. Nice play on the words. But it is a walled town. It's called the Maiden City. It was never breached. Almost in 1689, and it was saved by apprentices who seen the advance of James II Army and decided to close the gates. It was a prolonged siege, but they still won the day eventually. They were relieved. So it is now the walking tour. It's a typical Irish one. The walking tour will be 2/3 will be by coach. The hilly area of the cities we do it by coach, and then on the upper part we get everybody off and they walk on the walls. And the wall is wide enough, maybe to drive a bus on, if you would get the bus up. It's that wide. It's a huge. It's like a roadway. So you will have a gentle walk along the wall, coming down to eventually to the Guild Hall or the City Hall. And Ronan McNamara is an amazing guide. He can tell you it all. The first time I met him, I was surprised. His name would suggest totally Irish. I was in the hotel one morning waiting for Ronan, and this guy came up. He says, Liam, yeah, yeah, yeah. He says, Ronan, oh, right. He's Chinese. He looks Chinese, totally Chinese, you know. His mother is Chinese. His father is Irish, hence the name, but he took all the genes from his mother. And he has no baggage with Northern Ireland history, so he tells it as it is, and he does a fantastic job. Ronan McNamara. So lovely, lovely city. It's quite a small area, but inside the walls, unique little place in Brooklyn. And then you're going to Belfast.
Yes, and then we are off to Belfast. But our first stop is at a distillery. We may or may not have drank enough whiskey by this point, so we are going to have another fabulous sample at the Bushmills Distillery to taste its famous whiskey. And then we do have lunch at a local farmhouse. So I think this is going to be a highlight today, chatting with this farmer, having this local lunch on site. And then we drive along the North Atrium coast and then through some quaint villages along the shoreline. And so I think lots to do on day 13. Anything you'd like to add about some of these places we're going to stop?
You will certainly enjoy Bushmills Distillery. It has a really smooth, good whiskey. It's there from about 1608. Yeah, it's been distilling ever since. And the farmhouse has a purebred animals as well, so you get a nice visit there. The really good people have been with them in the past. And you drive then towards Belfast on the Antrim coast. This is Carnlough village. We usually stop to the right hand side of that for a comfort stop, but it's very, very picturesque. Very picturesque. So the whole Antrim coast, all the way down to Belfast, is fantastic.
Excellent. And then one of the other highlights is Giant's Causeway. Of course, very, very famous. You see lots of photographs of this. This is our group on the left and right. World Heritage Site. Lots of legends and histories here. It is a very unique geological structure dating back to 60 million years ago, which is just amazing to think, and over 37,000 columns here that extend out into the sea. And you can see you can get right out on them, and it's okay and obviously safe to walk out there and get lots of pictures. And is this where you can see a lot of sea fossils as well?
No, not particularly, but what you will see on the day is Scotland. You're so near to Scotland.
Oh, wow.
12 to 14 miles away, some of it, you know. You will see it out to the right of that area, and you're looking at. And Ireland and Scotland Ireland and Britain was connected by land bridges at one time. In fact, Britain was connected to Europe by land bridges. But 10,000 years ago, you have the Ice Age, the last Ice Age, and as this about a mile high, the actual ice, a mile deep, the way you want to put it. And as that melted, you'll find that the seas rose considerably. And eventually, the land bridges between Britain and Ireland were washed away, and the Britain and Europe was washed away. So shortly after the Ice Age, the last Ice Age, you have they become two standalone islands. But the land bridges, it is said that this was one of the land bridges, or part of it. But this is lava pouring from the earth, and it comes down and it fills a complete valley about 60 million years ago. And as it gets to the sea, it starts to cool rapidly. And for whatever reason, it turns into these hexagonal columns, really deep hexagonal columns all over the place. But, yeah, some say 37,000, more say 49,000. So that's
Yeah, very, very unique structures
yes.
of that
Now
shape.
that's what the scientists will tell you about the geology and all that. But the real story is that up there was a giant called Finn McCool. And Finn was dating young ladies in Scotland, walking across to Scotland. And it said that the Scottish giant wasn't impressed by this. And he was going to come across and give him a good hiding and tell him to stay at home. It is said that Finn heard about this, and the Scottish giant was much larger than him, so he had to plan, what the heck am I going to do with this guy? It is said that he built a crib, a giant crib, and dressed up as a baby in it. And when the giant come knocking at the house to knock his head off, the mother said, well, he's not here, but come in and wait, his little baby child is here. It is said that when the Scottish giant took one look at the baby, he says, Mother of God, what must the father be like? And he ran like hell, tearing up the causeway as he left, in case the other guy would follow. That's more realistic now than that.
That's definitely a funner version of, I love that. So you'll learn both when you're there, I'm sure. Then we're on to our next day, and this will be a unique day. We will be riding in black taxis with a local guide, doing a Belfast tour and just learning all of the sites throughout Belfast, all the troubles that occurred in those early years in the 1960s and 1990s. And this is just one of, I actually am not sure where they're at in this photograph, just is along the route of stopping throughout the city with the local guide.
I would always, if a small group is coming, if it's 3 or 4, a family or friends, I would say never ever get a black taxi tour. And the reason for that is because you'll only get one side of the equation. And there's 2 sides to everything, even the mug, the inside and the outside. So there's 2 sides to everything. So the beauty of a group, you'll have 3 or 4 minivans, bringing them, or 5, whatever it takes, bringing them round. And at the first stop, we'll all get out, and one of the drivers, say from the nationalist, indigenous, Catholic side, will tell the story about that particular area. At the next stop, it'll be a Protestant, loyalist, English-backed thinking person that'll give it. So, but you get a great balance between the 2 of them. If you get one guy on his own, he'll probably lean towards his thing, So it's brilliant to get a group like that. They have quite a number of drivers, so they'll have something from every side of the equation. The guy in the background, 1690, he's the cause of most of it all up there in Northern Ireland. That's King William of Orange, or King Bolly, as they call it up there. And you'll find that James was the Catholic King of England in a country turning to the Protestant faith. His daughter Mary actually went off to Europe and converted to the Protestant faith and married this young guy, a prince, William of Orange, the Royal House of Holland. And some people in England decided to invite him back in to oust the father-in-law. And him and Mary come back. James comes with French help. He comes to Ireland, the Irish support him. But William comes after him through England into Ireland with about 6 countries backing him on a kind of a Protestant crusade at the time. And to be honest with you, the first engagement was in July 1690, and the writing is on the wall thereafter for James. He's on a hiding to nothing. It does go on for another year and 10 months, but eventually William conquers James in Ireland, defeats him, and he takes the throne of Britain and Ireland, and he rules Britain thereafter. And it's a bad time for the Irish after that. They haven't had much hope from there. right into the. He's the guy. Uh, Now, it is an international war over the crown of England. There's 9 countries involved: Ireland, England, France, and 6 countries backing William. So most people in the world have forgotten about this war, international war over the crown of England. But in Northern Ireland, no. The loyalist people say they don't talk about that. They talk about the Battle of the Boyne, the first engagement. It's the defeat of Catholicism by the Protestant faith. It's celebrated every year, and to be honest with you, it leaves a lot. It's naked sectarianism. It's god awful stuff, you know. Uh, that's where that whole thing comes from. William of Orange and the divided society. They are beginning to realize that they have to live with each other and are making inroads into it. There's a few, of course, on each side, extremes, but generally it's quite a nice place to visit today. There's no danger to you, no nothing. These guys do a good job, particularly if there's a number of them, because you get the balance. That's what you get.
It's true, there's always two sides to every story. So when you're getting that perspective of the history and it's non-biased, that's always helpful. And speaking of history, there's more on day 14 continued. We're going to visit the Titanic Belfast, the museum, the galleries. This building, of course, was where the building of the RMS Titanic took place. So it has the history of the wreck. And there's some really special exhibits inside. There's some rides you can do, different special effects, full-scale reconstructions. So it's a really interactive, innovative place to take in the whole Titanic story. A really beautiful building from the outside. So I know this will be a really nice couple hours here exploring this museum. You've any favorite spots that you'd like to do inside?
Well, first of all, it was opened in 2012 to
Okay.
mark the centenary of as I just say, the launching, sailing, and sinking of the ship. You know, and directly behind, we're looking at that sign, the rusty sign on the bottom. Directly the other side of the building, there is a line of rusty pillars, and it's in between that and lines of pillars is where the Titanic was actually built. And while the building is quite tall, when you're looking at the road there beneath the blue banner there, the point of each corner of the building, that's the height of the bow of the Titanic from the water. It gives you an idea. It was a gigantic thing. Of course, these things are dwarfed today by the cruise ships that we see today now. But at the time, it was just an extraordinary structure. It was unsinkable. Yeah, see where that got you. They say we Irish are the only crowd that would celebrate the building of a ship that sunk on its maiden voyage. It's not a great thing to have on your CV, you know. Now they built magnificent ships; they all didn't sink, but it is 6 levels. There's elevators, escalators, all you can press and listen to everything, you know, buttons and whatnot. And it really is, you need at least an hour 45. You can maybe give, if you haven't pressure time, a minimum of 2 hours there. And that will really get everybody through. You know, it's a balance between the people, yes, a ship that sunk, and the people who eat, sleep, and drink this kind of thing. So I think 2 hours is adequate for everybody for a balance, you know. But they built extraordinary ships in Belfast. You know, it was probably one of the busiest places in the world for shipbuilding. And not alone, they didn't just build the hull, they made the furniture, the carpets, the curtains, the engines, the ropes, everything. In fact, rope in Belfast, the old saying was that there wasn't a sailor in the world who hadn't at some stage had his hand on Belfast rope. So the Industrial Revolution was extraordinary for Belfast. By the way, behind that building, you'll see when you get there, there's a large TV or film studio, and it's actually biggest shareholder in that is Tom Hanks, actually. And most of the indoor stuff for the movie or that TV series. Yeah, I'm trying to think of it. Quite think of it in the moment, anyway. You know, but there's 1,000 acres there in Harlan and Wolf to be redeveloped because shipbuilding has gone to Korea and places like that. It is a place ripe for. You can also see from there when you get there the Parliament building of Stronghold. There's a church tower you will see, and there's a couple of good writers, and Van Morrison came from that area as well. You know the singer Van the Man. A lot of history about that.
I love that you explained the shape and size of the building. It really does put it into perspective. It looks like the bow of the ship, but yeah, when you look up it, that's really, really neat. Okay, and then leaving Belfast, so we're on to day 15. Just move my screen here a little bit. We're going to visit the Hillsborough Castle and Gardens. This was the official residence for the royal family in Northern Ireland. You can see it, and then I think this photograph, we're driving on through the beautiful Boyne Valley. Go ahead, Liam.
The Boyne Valley, yeah, well, Hillsborough Castle and Gardens, of course, this again in the 1600s was the area was granted to the Hills family from England for service to the crown, and they built a castle there. Yeah. And it became when Northern Ireland had a prime minister, that was his official residence as well. And it's where the castle is where the Good Friday Agreement was signed that brought peace to Northern Ireland in 1990. So quite an impressive building, and the grounds are quite good as well. We come down then, and you're back into the Republic, and you come to the Boyne Valley. The Boyne is a river, and this is Newgrange. This is an extraordinary site. I mean, years ago, if you kind of flew over it, it would be just a mound. A lot of these things were hidden, right, by soil. But this is 5,500 years old. It's 500 years older than the pyramids in Egypt. Okay? And while they were, you know, we might think of them as primitive man, extraordinary what they could build. Corbelling technique is how they built. So they built in a kind of a circular fashion with stone. Each layer of stone was moved inwards, but tilted outwards to deflect rainwater. Eventually, the hole in the middle starts to get smaller, and you put a capstone on it, and you cover it with hundreds of thousands of tons of earth. It looks like a small mound, naturally. It's much more than that. In the door there, you go straight in, and you get down to the center where they buried the dead kings. But the opening at the top has got, or the door has an opening on the top, like where a window should be placed, 5,500 years ago. So you'll find that not alone could they build extraordinary structures, taken 70 years to complete. They built it and aligned it with the winter solstice. So when the sun comes up here where I'm sitting and hits that doorway, it hits the light box on the top, and it sends a shaft of light all the way into where the dead leaders are buried, 70 meters. Or extra. Now, this is a very important time, of course, 21st of December, as we know it. It's the end of the lunar cycle, but more importantly, the beginning of a new lunar cycle. We're talking about days getting longer, spring. It's extraordinary how they could do that 5,500 years ago. We call them primitive. So
it's
that is
just, that's amazing. It's just so amazing how they were able to figure that all out and build according to all those weather patterns. It's really mind-blowing. And then
not alone that, 50 miles north of the site, that's the only place you could find the white quartz that's used at the doorway. So they quarried 50 miles away, they quarried stone in the Mourne Mountains, hauled it down the hill onto a raft, out the rivers, down the coast, in the River Boyne, and haul it up the hill again. And other stone is only found 70 miles south of the site. And again, the same form of transportation by sea and rivers. You know, thousands of people over 70 years to complete it.
Wow. Wow, I'm so glad you shared that. I didn't know much about this history. This has been
And then you get
amazing.
into Dublin.
Yeah, and then we're into Dublin, Ireland's largest city, of course. Lots of history here. Again, we have a local guide who takes us on a city tour, so we learn all about Dublin. We're going to visit Trinity College, which is the photograph on the left, founded by Queen Elizabeth I in 1592. We also go to the Book of Kells. This is a picture on the right, these medieval illuminated manuscripts of the four Gospels. There's a fabulous library as well that may or may not be open, but it's just going to be a really culturally rich day in Dublin. Tell us more. Liam, what are we going to see?
Are you going to Christchurch Cathedral as well? Is that on your
Yes,
list?
that's the next picture.
So yeah, as I said, Queen Elizabeth, she decided to found this university in 1592. It wasn't for the Irish. You had to be Anglo-Irish and Protestant to attend for the first 300 years. And then they allowed, they were very forward thinking 300 years later, they decided to allow Catholic men in. And then eventually in the 1940s, they went wild altogether and they allowed women in. Wow, weren't they amazing people? But anyway, that's the history of it. It's quite a beautiful building. The Book of Kells is housed within that. And we mentioned earlier about some days earlier, you have St. Columkill. And so he goes off to Scotland to Christianize the Scots, convert them. Long after his death, his monks over there decided they would create a great manuscript of the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And they started on the island to do this, but long before it was ever finished, the Vikings started to raid the western coast of Scotland. And so the monks had to flee to Ireland with the unfinished manuscript, and lo and behold, where does it go to? Kells in County Meath, where he started a few hundred years earlier, started his. It was there many years later that they finished the book. They got the name. Now, during the Cromwellian times, of course, the monasteries were being attacked. And so they decided to bring the book to the Protestant University in Dublin for safekeeping. It would never be attacked there, of course, you know. And so it has remained there, much to the annoyance of the people of Kells thereafter. It is a cash cow. It's probably not going to ever move, because possession is 9/10 of the law. And about 1.1 million people a year, and a hefty admission fee, it's a lot of money. So it's going to stay there. It is 1208 is the date given to it, the completion date, 1208. Actually, copyright on this side of the world was established on the Book of Kells. That's where it all started, because people made a copy of the Book of Kells. And the people in Trinity were put out about this and decided to take them to court. And I paraphrase the judgment. You know, this book is written on calfskin, vellum, right? And basically he said, to every cow its calf, to every book its copy, which established copyright. Then you go on to Christchurch Cathedral.
Yep.
There's been now a church here since, or a cathedral, since 1038. It was a wooden structure built by a Viking king, local guy called Sitrick. But then you have the English coming in from 1169 onwards, and they decide to build a stone structure with the local bishop Lawrence O'Toole. And they built this cathedral in 1172. It is a fantastic crypt under it, and it has, when you go in and look from the back of the cathedral up towards the altar, look to the wall to the left, the main wall is leaning 18 inches off plumb, leaning out. It's so ancient, but it's been fixed with, flying buttresses, quite safe. Extraordinary place to visit. And, you go down to the crypt, and you see all the beautiful vessels of gold and silver that was used down to the centuries, and see the tomb of Bishop Lawrence O'Toole. So quite an impressive place to visit. As I said, 1172. Now, 300 yards away, 300 meters away, there is another Protestant cathedral, St. Patrick's. First of all, they were both Catholic at the time, and then you have, the Reformation, England was in control, and they're all converted to the new Protestant faith. But seemingly, one morning, the bishop got up in this place, and he had a bit of a hissy fit. He decided to throw all the toys out the pram and said, I'm never going to be under Norman rule again or pay Norman taxes. And he marched down the road 300 meters out to the ancient wall and built a new St. Patrick's, 200 yards down the road. Crazy, but that's what happened. 20 years. So that's 1192, 20 years younger than this one you're looking at here. But you get a guided tour through this, and it's quite impressive.
Yeah, and then the ladies went up to ring the bells. That's them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you climb the steps, you can ring the bell. Right? By the way, there's a copy. They have a copy there of the Magna Carta there in the crypt as well. So.
Watch out for that. Okay. And then just also on this dig, I skipped ahead of picture, so we'll go back one. We're going to also finish up at the Guinness Brewery. One of my favorite dark beers. Love Guinness, so I know this would be a fun afternoon for me, but we're going to do a tour and sample of this iconic beer. That's our group on the left, cheersing their Guinnesses.
Yeah, you have 360-degree views from this bar, the gravity bar up there.
I was just going to say the view is beautiful. Yeah, you're quite high up. You can see the whole city.
The whole thing started by Arthur Guinness in 1759. That's funny. Now he got a great break. He had a brewery outside the city, and his godfather died, who was the bishop of Cashel. Remember we talked earlier about the Rock of Cashel? Well, his godfather was the bishop of Cashel, and he died. And in the will, he gave £100 to the young Arthur. A lot of money in that time, you know. And he used it wisely. He went to Dublin, decided to put this £100 down as a down payment on the building, and £45 thereafter per year. He must have thought he was going to live forever, because he took out a 9,000-year lease. There's only 260 years gone, so a lot of time to do. It's called porter or stout. There's no such thing as Guinness drink. It's a brand, but basically they burn the hops and the barley. That's what gets the blackness and the bitter taste, you know. Called porter because I think the porters and stevedores at the docks in London were the first people who sampled it. And as I say, the rest is history. The way it took off. Him and his wife had 21 children. We don't know what she did in her free time. 21 children, 11 of which lived to adulthood. And up until recent times, expectant mothers would be told by their GPs, the general practitioners, to a bottle of Guinness a day for iron content.
I've had a So I have not been to Ireland. Don't ask me why I've had this but a famous shooter. I don't know if they have this. They must have this in Ireland, but we call it the Irish car bomb here, where you take a glass of Guinness and then you put a shot of whiskey inside the Guinness beer and then you drink both. Have you had this? No, you haven't tried it?
No, I haven't. I thought you were going to talk about something else there a minute ago. They call it the Belfast bomber.
Oh, okay. Well, we call it an Irish car bomb. I'm not
No,
sure in Canada, but a lot of people drink that. It's really popular.
no, this one is a different drink. It's Bailey's, you know, the peppermint creme de menthe
Yep.
and brandy, and they stack on
Ooh,
top of each other brilliantly.
that
It's like
sounds delicious.
call it the tricolor of the Irish flag because of the colors.
Huh?
Boy, but if you drank a few of them quickly, they're aptly called the Belfast bomber because they would blow your head.
It sounds tasty.
Yep, so it is very easy to drink, but it has a kick.
Yeah. That's a lot of straight alcohol. And now we have we're rounding up the end of the tour. It's coming to an end, sadly, but we are already on day 17. And this is a free day at your leisure, which is really nice. The guides will assist you with some ideas. There is lots to do, of course, around Dublin. Wonderful shopping, wonderful pubs and restaurants. So you have a lovely day just to sort of wander on your own. And then tonight we do the kickoff dinner at the Merry Plowboys Pub. So this is a traditional Irish pub. There is dinner and a cabaret. And so that's our guest eating the dinner on the left, and then a couple of the ladies dressed up. I think they went on stage and had some fun on stage. So it's a really fun way to end the trip. I'm assuming you've been here.
I have. Yeah, there are a number of these shows in town. This one has to be the best, and I'll tell you why. Because the musicians, they own the mortgage on it. So they're very focused on what they do. They did have a place and they had it leased, and there was a doubt about the long-term viability of the lease. And so they bought this pub. A guy called Doherty, Sean Doherty owned it first, and they put a fortune of money into building it and revamping the whole thing. And all the musicians actually own the premises. So they're extremely focused on what they do, and they give an amazing show every night. And they have excellent food as well. So great music, song, and dance. Enjoy that. It's a find it very well.
Yeah, a wonderful way to say goodbye to Ireland, because we do leave. Now don't worry, because we know this is going to be a fun night the night before, but then it is a late morning that we make our way off to the airport, and then we do have a flight on WestJet again through Calgary, and then back home to our departure cities. So,
by the way, you will be home. You will be home from the show at about. You'll be back in the hotel at the latest 10:40.
Oh, that's not too bad. Okay. That's great. So you don't have to go home early and miss out on any of the fun. It won't be too late. Wow, Liam, I cannot thank you enough. I just felt like we did the most amazing virtual tour of Ireland. I learned so much this morning. I could not have done this webinar without you. You are just such a wealth of knowledge and history, and the charm through your voice. I just feel like I was in Ireland for the last hour and a half. That was amazing. You're amazing. I really, really appreciate you taking the time to join us this morning. I'm sure. I hope our guests enjoyed it as well. I'm secretly hoping one seat doesn't sell and I can sneak on this tour in May. I had no idea.
It's my pleasure anyway to have joined you, and I hope you will all have a fantastic time to come. I think you will, and just go with the flow and experience. You know, travel is great. It's all about new food, new ideas. You know, different customs, traditions. Just go with the flow. I tell people that, you know, if you come and you say, oh, it's not like that at all, there's a good reason for that. You're not at all. So, you know, experience, embrace whatever you find and go with the flow. the Irish will respond well to that. You'll have a ball.
You're so much fun to talk to, and I really enjoyed getting to know you this morning, and hopefully one day I'll get to meet you. I know our clients were curious. We couldn't have him live with video, but it's just hearing your enthusiasm in your voice and how passionate you are about your country and how willing you are to share. So it's a destination that we love to sell at Wales Grey Tours, and I know our clients are really looking forward to May and June. Of course, if you have any questions about the itinerary itself, or we have more questions for Liam, you could forward those on to myself. I can then get hold of Liam and we can answer any other questions. Often that comes up is the weather, of course. I know it's May, June, it's a beautiful time to be there. You could get some rain, of course. Any packing tips or pack layers, I would guess, just in case?
It's very difficult to know. I mean, I've had
Yeah.
people who come with so many wet gear and layers, and they go home with a suntan, you know. And then the people who come prepared for the sun, and they get maybe rain, have to buy a jacket or something like that, you know. So yeah, but don't overpack. They say the secret of travel is you should put everything out on a bed that you think you need, divide it in two, and you still have too much. You know, you're carrying much too much around the countryside. You don't really need it, you know. So, you know, but have a couple of layers that you can put on in the event of. Have your above your head on the rack of the coach every day. Have a little jacket. It's better to be looking at it than looking for it. But you're not going to get anything soon.
It's such good advice. I used to be a really overpacker, and I've gotten better over the years. And my husband once said to me, because he often had to pick up my bag for me because I was so heavy, and he's like, stop packing so much, and if you need it, you can always buy it. And then it was a reason for me to shop in all these wonderful new destinations. So it is always fun to maybe purchase something somewhere else when you're traveling. So, but packing light and having a lighter bag to carry around, it is so much easier. You feel lighter overall. So that's a really good tip. Because you always bring too much. So lay it out on your bed and then divide by two. I like that advice. I'm gonna use that as well, Liam. Well, it's almost your dinner time, I would say. What's for dinner tonight? Are you having lamb? We talked about lamb this morning. We talked about
I'm not sure. I didn't get as far as the kitchen yet, so I'm not
No,
quite sure.
okay. You're not sure?
It's a surprise.
Okay. Well, I want to say thank you so much on behalf of Wales Grey Tours. We hope we get to meet you in person when we're there, and we'll follow up if we have any questions. Thank you for taking the time. Is there anything famous you say when you cheers when you're drinking your whiskey that we should know?
You say sláinte.
Sláinte?
Sláinte means, we don't say cheers, we say sláinte, which is good health.
Sláinte. Good health. I love that. Okay, there we go, ladies and gentlemen.
When people are leaving, they often say that, you know, wishing them well, whatever. There's many sayings, but one of them is, as you slide down the banister of life, I hope that all the chips will face the right way for you.
Oh.
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't travel translation, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I love that.
So slán go fóill, which means until we meet again.
Ah, yay! Thank you, Liam. And this is recorded, just so if you had any problems joining us, I'm going to send this out. I can send this recording to you as well, Liam, if you would like to have this for your Discover Island partners. Yeah, okay, so I'll do that as well. So, well, thank you so much, and good health to you, and I hope you enjoy your dinner, and we'll talk very soon. All right, thank you. Take care.